if you don't like calling yourself a salesperson like I do, maybe you can call yourself something else and then show up in a place that, hey, what I'm doing is I'm here to be a leader for someone, or what I'm doing is I'm here to be a guide for somebody, and really lean into the strengths that you have.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I am thrilled to have Drew Norton on the show. Drew had me on his podcast, and it was a lot of fun. It was such a great experience. And Drew, I just love your mission, talking about, the everyday sales leader. I think that's something we don't usually hear about. We hear about people in big words, right? Wanting to be I don't want to say overblown, but but they want to use words that make it seem like you're the king, you're the cream of the crop sales. And I think the approach that you take is calm, it's methodical, it's one that people can relate to, and it makes it seem more attainable and achievable. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on your show and share some insights with your listeners.
Yeah. So talk about your journey in sales into what you do today.
Yeah. Well, I'll start by just what you referenced, the name, The Everyday Sales Leader. That started with our podcast is The Everyday Leader. I have a couple co-hosts we do that with, and kind of the idea that we want to help everyday people show up as leaders in their life. And I have a sales background. I've ran and led sales teams from anywhere from 3 people to 30, 40 people at a time over the last decade, and hired and trained and really just became passionate in sales, and not just the selling, but like teaching people how to sell. And I used to be a salesperson that wanted to do anything but admit he was in sales. So I think I was a little bit embarrassed that I was in sales. When people talked about what they did, I didn't want to admit oh, hey, I'm a sales guy. And I think we just have this stigma in society around sales. I love my used car salesman, but I think that's what people think of. And it just says what he can to get you to buy the car that's going to break down in a week. And I just, over the years, have come to realize, hey, no, sales can be a beautiful thing. Sales is life, and that selling is noble, selling is leadership, and part of everyday life, especially if you're in business. If you're a business owner, you are selling. And one of the things that sometimes, I don't know, maybe it drives me crazy is people will say, I don't sell. I have a business, but I don't do any sales. It's like, yes, you do. You should be influenced. If you believe in your product, your service, and the vision you have, you should be selling. You have a moral obligation if what you have is going to help someone else. And so I love helping people unlock that and see that, and then teach and share ways how they can do that themselves.
How did you overcome your own mindset of not wanting to talk about being in sales and realizing, wait, why am I treating my job that I really enjoy as, a secret?
Yeah, I would say that the short answer is probably in doing some coaching myself, getting my own coaching and recognizing some limiting beliefs or thoughts I had around it. I loved it, and I knew it was a good thing. And then what I realized is, in fact, I remember going through an exercise once talking about limiting beliefs in sales, thinking, oh, I don't have any. And I was like, oh, wait, no, I care that people know I'm in sales. And that was my not to have a conversation with people or to even show up powerfully in a sales conversation, more like what others think about me because I was in sales. And so that was part of it. And another example, a little short story. It was probably about a little over 5 years ago. I had just changed industries and moved into a new sales role that seemed like it was going to be very lucrative. I had a couple of friends that were in the industry and doing quite well. And it required me to level up. I had been comfortable where I was at, and I decided, hey, I got to get back into self-development. I've got to develop my skill set. I'm learning a new product, new service, and just really got back into studying and reading and watching all the YouTube videos, taking the courses and classes I could to get better. And what happened, I was working a lot out of town. We had an apartment. I'd go spend a few days a week working away from home, and my wife and kids would come stay sometimes. And one day on my way home, I let my wife know I was coming. Hey, let's get the kids ready to go. And as I was pulling into the apartments, I heard an ambulance behind me. And as I walked in the door, probably 15 minutes after calling my wife, she was in tears over our 6-month-old son at the time. He was crying really faint and weak. And seconds later, the paramedics were rushing in behind me. It was really a whirlwind. I didn't know what was going on. My wife and son were rushed to the hospital. He was initially misdiagnosed with a heart condition. And the good news is he is fine now. 6 years old, happy, healthy. We're going camping later today. He's excited for that. And basically what happened is there was an accident. He suffocated in his pack and play. And my wife, when she went to get him up, she found him face down, limp, gray, something no mother should have to do. And luckily she resuscitated him and saved his life. She had a lot of, and rightfully so, a lot of trauma, PTSD that came from that. We believe that between prayers and counseling, that was a big help. And one thing we've realized since is we had some of the best conversations we'd ever had in our marriage that year and a half later. And I believe that part of the reason I changed careers and changed industries, at first I thought it was to level up and to make more money. And I really believe like I wasn't ready to be the husband my wife needed me to be. Wow. And that learning to better communicate, learning to better ask questions, learning to be a better listener through the way we spoke, like really helped us and strengthened our marriage. So that's why I like to say that sales is life. Is it's literally a part of everything you do. And I don't want to take credit like I healed my wife or something, and like I was able to support her in a way I wouldn't have been able to previously. And so I've just come to really believe that learning sales skills, learning how to communicate, can bless you in every area of your life.
Yeah. It's really interesting because so many times I think we think about communication and how we communicate and why that's so important. But I don't know that people make that connection with sales in terms of this can also help your entire life and the way that you process things. Because sales, to your point, isn't just getting on a call, doing a demo of a product, right? Or talking about why we're going to solve a problem for somebody and then they buy the product or sign a contract or whatever the case may be. Sales is how we negotiate everything in life. So you speaking with the doctors, figuring out the misdiagnoses, trying to help navigate communication for figuring out what was happening and then being able to heal your family through that. That's really amazing. And thank you for sharing that journey.
Yeah. And I also just come to realize that it's more important for whoever I'm speaking to in sales to discover it themselves than for me to tell them. And so I really view it like being a guide to take someone through a journey of self-discovery than it is like, here's everything this can do for you. Mm-hmm. And I've personally found in my own life, there's power in speaking things out loud. I can have a thought about something, and when I say it out loud, it just brings a different power to it. So sometimes like the biggest realizations in my life have come when I've said something out loud to my wife or to a friend that maybe I'd been thinking for a long time. Both sometimes the negatives I say out loud and realize how stupid it is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the positives become so much more powerful. And so I think that's part of what helped is like, as I was able to help my wife talk through things in the conversations we had, she was able to, realize some things that she was thinking that weren't true about herself. At the same time, realize some things that really just helped improve our relationship and our marriage. And I'd love to say I'm the perfect communicator. I'm still working on it. I'm still looking to improve every day. To me, that's the idea of being the everyday sales leader, is that every day want to work on getting a little bit better. And I think it's something that anybody can learn. I don't believe there are natural salespeople. I think some people are naturally a little bit more gifted. And I think it's something that everybody can learn. Yeah. Everyone can learn how to communicate a little bit better.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I really like your points around, some of the stuff that you've shared with me, sales being a really great leadership tool. In order to sell something, whether it's an idea, product, service, you have to believe in it yourself. And if you don't have that belief, so that goes back to the whole communication and sales isn't just the one ask or the one question or the things that people get really scared about. It's the whole process. And it's you learning to communicate that process with people.
Yeah, totally. It's if you want to be a better leader, you have to be able to sell your team on a vision of the future and what that could look like for them. If you want your kid to do something they normally wouldn't do, you have to help them see, hey, this is the benefit of this in your life if you can do this hard thing. And yeah, I think it's closely related to leadership. So
how did that near-death experience, the year and a half after that, and this role where you were having to travel, how did that bring you to the decision that maybe I need to do something else and I need to actually help other people learn how to be leaders, how to communicate?
yeah, I'm trying to think how long ago it was. It was probably 3 years ago, roughly 3.5 years ago. I just decided to go all in the company I was working at with sales. I became more consistent than I ever been. And I had an amazing year sales wise. I set a lot of personal records for myself. I made the most money I'd ever made. I also was home less than I'd ever been.
Mm-hmm.
My family saw me. They got the last of me instead of maybe the first of me. And I kind of realized I was making more money than I ever made and realized I wasn't happy, that I kind of been chasing the wrong things. So that led to a lot of reflection, changing, restructuring how I was doing things. I love the book. Dan Martell has a book called Buy Back Your Time. So I looked at, okay, how can I take things off my plate and offload those to somebody that would love to do the things I don't do and do those things better. And just over the next couple of years, I made actually less, but I was a lot happier. And what I started to realize, what I enjoyed the most was when I'd work with someone on my team and see them get it and see them have success. So I did a lot of what I did was door to door sales, and that's my background. And it was really fun to take maybe I'm pretty involved in our church. I used to be over the young men's group in our church. And a couple of those young men, I used to be their leader. They came and sold for me and came out and made 6 figures. And it was cool just to see that change their life.
Yeah.
And that just lit me up. And I'm like, I want to do more of that. And so where I was working at the time, to keep growing, I wanted to go more into that role, and there just wasn't the space to do that. And so I just decided, hey, I want to go do this and change the role. I started by joining a growth agency and started coaching and consulting with them. And this last year went independent.
Nice.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, fantastic. But the fact that you could transition to these different roles that really met the needs, that you met your needs, because that's something that we hear a lot, right? People want to find job satisfaction, but they want to make sure that they have time for family and friends, and that they're not, going against their own values to chase a paycheck. And so it sounds like while you're growing your career, you also had these epiphanies of what does success really look like? What is going to make me and my family happy and well functioning, and make sure your kids and your wife know who you are, because they always say, right, on your deathbed, it's not about how much money you made, it's about what people think. Do they remember that time with you? Did you give of yourself? So
and I'd be lying if I said I don't want to make a lot of money. I do.
Yeah.
and it's what's the priority, what's the order of that,
right?
And I believe you can have both. I believe you can have success and have time for your family, and at the same time make a good living and have an amazing career that's fulfilling. I don't think you have to choose between the two. I think there's more opportunities today than ever before to go out and create amazing things, bring value to the world.
So what does your day look like now? Who are your ideal clients, and what are the kinds of things that you do to help them?
Yes. So a lot of my time is spent networking, building out courses, working with current teams that I'm engaged with at the moment. Some of the clients I work with a software company that does sales. I've worked with several contractors, which is interesting. Once again, I never thought, I'm getting ready to do an engagement with a plumbing company, which I'd never thought, hey, plumbers are going to need a salesperson, but they've got a service plan that they sell and offer, and they want help with their sales team doing that. But to answer your question, who specifically do I work with? I would say it's probably the small to medium business owners that get into business and recognize, oh, hey, I need, sales is something I didn't realize we needed to improve and make better. Or it's sometimes the individual that's, hey, I want to level up in sales and find better ways to do it in a way that I would enjoy selling. So I would say those groups, and that's maybe a little bit broad. Insurance and solars are industries I've done a lot of work in. So I work a lot with those. But I think it's anyone that just feels like, hey, I want to improve, and I maybe don't even like how sales feels. So starting with some mindset work first, and then getting into, okay, what we say, how we say it in a way that allows people to still make a choice and be persuasive at the same time.
Yeah. What was one of the most difficult things when you went out on your own?
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve to go from, I think it's just probably every business owner goes through, is finding new clients. Where do I go to find my clients now? And so I'd love to say I've figured that out completely. I'm still figuring that out. I've tried to get more vocal. I used to be, one of the other things I've had to recognize that, hey, if I want to share what I can do with people, I have to be willing to get on podcasts. I have to be willing to post more on social media. You couldn't find anything about me a few years ago. I kind of hid from the world. And I'm finding the more I network with good people, the more great opportunities just seem to fall in my lap. So,
yeah, fantastic. And then talk about your podcast a little bit.
Yes. So our podcast is the Everyday Leader. We've been running that for about 6 months. We do a small mastermind with that as well for small business owners and those in leadership positions. And we love to just talk about leadership. So we love the episode we had with you coming on. And I also believe, outside of the sales stuff we've talked about, that my co-hosts Tate and Matt, we really believe the world's starving for more leadership, more than ever before. And that people want less managers and more leaders. Not that management is a bad thing. I believe you manage systems and processes, and that you lead people. And so we love just bringing people on to share their stories and the lessons they've learned about leadership. And it's been really fun. You get to meet amazing people like you, and hear just incredible stories from people.
Yeah. And have you been using that mostly as a vehicle to meet people that could be clients, just to expand your network, to get your own thought leadership out?
I'd say a little bit of both. What's awesome about my two co-hosts is none of us are attached to the results of it. So what's been really fun is we're committed to doing it and having it every week, and to grow our network with it. And we hope to get, establish our own personal brands with it, and create content. That podcasts are awesome for content creation. And we both really enjoy doing it too. It's just been really fun just to connect with great people. And if it becomes a big podcast someday, great. If not, it's been a great tool for us to just connect with amazing people.
Now, for your business, do you see a future where you're going to add more people, or you're going to train more people in the way that you're teaching? Are you going to do still one-on-one in groups? Or are you going to move more towards, because you talked about courses as well?
Yeah, I have a course I've built out, and I want to build out more that are more, it's more of a general course, and I want to build out some that are industry specific. And I would like to grow and build out a team. I have an assistant working for me, and hope to bring on a couple others over time to help. And ultimately, my vision is I'd love to change the way the world views sales, and I can't do that alone. So I'd love to get to the point. I don't have a group program right now. I mean, we have our mastermind group that's part of the Everyday Leader, and at some point I'd love to have a group course. I am getting ready to get started with a finance company that has a couple hundred clients that we'd probably be doing some group calls for their clients. And so I see that as a way to scale the group programs, the group
Definitely.
calls. And I hope I'd love to at some point have a couple other coaches or people on my team that are teaching the same things I do.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that process? For instance, somebody's kind of floundering. They're not sure. Maybe they're doing sales, but they are not doing it the quote right way, where they're not really being intentional, bringing their whole selves to it.
Yeah. So where I like to start with people is going through an exercise of, okay, let's write out every negative, every limiting belief you have around sales, or maybe anything that just comes up when you think about it that you feel resistant to.
Yeah.
And helping recognize what those are first. And once we recognize those, it's okay, now let's change the way we speak about these things. Let's change the beliefs we have around that. So I help them create a kind of a document, that the affirmations, to help see the way they change. In fact, I've got a resource I'd love to give your listeners. It's a questionnaire they can do to help maybe reframe the way they look at how they might sell to somebody. Sales Archetype Questionnaire. And I've got 7 different archetypes based on the questions you answer that can help you say, okay, am I a servant leader? Am I a guide? Am I an advocate for people? Am I a challenger? To maybe help you see, if you don't like calling yourself a salesperson like I do, maybe you can call yourself something else, and then show up in a place that, hey, what I'm doing is I'm here to be a leader for someone, or what I'm doing is I'm here to be a guide for somebody, and really lean into the strengths that you have. And then after we get through that, then it's okay. What are the actual words we say? What are the tactical things we're saying, and how can we work and improve on the tactical side of a way, and do it ethically, where we're helping people come to conclusions themselves, not just telling them or twisting their arm or doing something unethical.
Oh, yeah. And how do you and your clients rate success of working with you? Is it through the mindset shifts, people being more comfortable? Is it through, do they add any KPIs around how much the volume of sales calls, or how much more a certain salesperson is, selling, or any of those kind of things?
I think depending on the client, that sometimes what they're looking for is a little bit different. So I had an individual I worked with one-on-one that for him, it was just, he does capital raising in real estate. He's like, I just can't talk to people. I trip over my words. His dad told him when he first was getting into doing that, oh, it sounds like you're doing a hustle. So immediately in his mind, he just had these thoughts of like, oh man, people are going to think I'm scamming them or doing something dishonest. And so for him, the results he had is, hey, I believe this is noble now. Like, I believe what I'm doing is a good thing for people. And so for him, that's the biggest thing has been just confidence that he didn't have before.
Nice.
I had an insurance agency. This was one of my first clients, and my engagement was about a year ago. And I reached back out, said, hey, how's it been going? They looked at their numbers. Their sales had been up about 30%. And so they say they mostly believe they don't feel like the market or they had changed much else other than the way they were talking to people. And then one of the things that was interesting too is just I was an insurance agent years ago. But one of the things that's interesting about like insurance, for example, all you hear on TV is call for a lower price, call for a lower price, call for a lower price. So they kind of felt like, hey, if we can't offer someone a better price, there's no reason for them to go with us. And so what was awesome is them starting to share stories of like, hey, now we feel like, hey, we're the best. There's things that we're the best at, and we're not afraid to say that to people. And we're sometimes winning policies where we wouldn't even tried before, where we come in at a higher price and they see the value they're going to get with us or with the specific coverage we're able to offer them. And so that's awesome to hear. I love that.
Yeah, because if you're competing on price, that's just a losing equation.
Yeah.
So
you're making yourself a commodity when you do that.
But you being able to reframe people to, here are the advantages of working with us. Here's what we'll deliver above and beyond what those other people are saying. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Sometimes people are afraid to share that. They feel like it's being cocky or being arrogant. And I think what it comes down to is, am I saying this for my ego, or am I saying this because it's going to help them? And just as an example, if you were going to let's say you're going to get on a plane with somebody, a pilot, whether it's a commercial airline or maybe even a small plane, and the pilot said, hey, the weather is going to be pretty bad today. I've flown in weather like this a time or two before. And, it took me a few tries to get my pilot's license. I think we'll be okay though. Like how like that humble pilot, how excited would you be to jump on that plane versus pilot? Hey, yeah, the weather's not great. I've got the instruments in my airplane to do this. I graduated at the top of my class, and I'm confident we're going to get there with no problems at all.
Yeah.
That's the pilot I would want to get on the plane with. And sometimes in business, we kind of self-sabotage ourselves, and we talk like that pilot that you would never get on a plane with. And that doesn't help your clients. That doesn't help your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I really want to flag here is that we're talking about the human element of sales. There are many companies that will, quote, automate your sales system, use different campaigns, maybe use some AI, but ultimately it still comes down to human-to-human interaction and having to be that person who can get somebody across the finish line and be authentic and genuine.
Yeah, this isn't my area of expertise. There's a place for marketing. Totally. And if you have a good marketing team, that makes the sales side so much easier. If someone shows up and they understand your product and they understand your service and they understand your message and what makes you unique and different, makes that sales conversation really easy. And if you can't convey that person to person, in some industries, there's not as much of a need for that, but I think there's some industries where maybe AI will replace it someday. And I think there's some where it's still a ways off.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like because of the mix of clients you do have some that are software, you have some that are financial services, but you also have really small businesses that it's always going to be a human element. I'm at least as far as we know right now, it's always going to be a human plumber, right? It's always going to be somebody. The service industry in terms of home services is not going to go away, and it's probably just going to keep growing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and it seems like in the home services industries, what the trend I'm seeing is that everyone's going to more recurring revenue based models, and it takes sales to get someone to say, hey, why should I sign up for a recurring service instead of just call you when I need you? So
yeah. Now, you're also a real estate investor. How does that play into your life and your world of sales, if it does?
Great question. As far as sales goes, I found I love the buying and negotiating side of real estate, and that really gets me excited. And so I enjoy that. I've also found I don't love managing the property, working the project. Like, that's just my personality type. There's nothing wrong against anyone that does like that. And so I am a real estate investor. We've got probably around 20 doors altogether, my partner and I. So it's not a huge portfolio, and it's our retirement plan is to continue investing in that.
Nice.
And so as far as day to day, there's not much I do with that day to day. We have a really good assistant that runs and handles most of that business. And my partner and I, when there's a deal on the table, that's where we jump in and get excited and get involved. And then our assistant, she's amazing, and she handles the day to day with that stuff. I get stressed out when the toilet's leaking or when it's time to fill a new unit. And so kind of back to that idea of buy back your time, we found an assistant that she's amazing and she loves to do that. We're getting ready to convert some of our units to Airbnbs, and we've just partnered with somebody that's what she does, and she loves that. So maybe this isn't even a sales thing, but I've just found I'd rather partner with people and lean on the things they're best at and focus on the things I'm the best at. So it's become more secondary, I would say, the real estate investing.
Yeah, but you just hit on another great point, is that you don't always have to do it yourself. And I think sometimes as small business owners, unless you are very niche, right? But if you're like, I had a PR firm, but then I had clients who needed other services. So we added other services because I had team members who could do them. But in the long run, it really would have been better for my business if I had partnered with another agency who was better at that stuff, and they could handle those parts of the client requests, because then I wouldn't have had to, necessarily scale up as quickly. I would have probably made a little bit less mistakes when I started that firm. There are all these just things that come into that. So knowing what you love to do, what you're passionate about, what you're best at is really important as well when it comes to business, when it comes to sales.
Yeah. And I think what I love about what I'm doing right now is I can almost come in. So I will work with some people one-on-one, and sometimes it's working more in like a fractional role where they have me come in and doing sales trainings and running a sales meeting every week for the company, focusing on the KPIs, those kind of things, helping build out some scripts for the business. And I think that's, once again, back to that idea of partnership, it allows them to grow in a way where, hey, we're not ready to hire a full-time salesperson, or we don't have the capacity to, not even a salesperson, but we don't have someone who can handle the training and the management and overseeing how we can improve some of these processes or the things that we say or the scripts that we have, or some businesses don't have a script at all. So just developing some of that. So when you have things that are repeatable and trackable, you can measure things and make progress.
I understand that you do have the freebie. So are we putting a link in the show notes?
So I'll give you a link to that. And for your listener, you could also just text SALES, SALES, to 928-928-5985. So sales to 928-928-5985. You'll get an access to a PDF that takes you through a questionnaire to help you kind of learn your sales archetype, and then you'll get subscribed to my emails and a chance to get some access to. I have a lot of free resources that will come through that if someone's interested.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there anything we haven't covered? Because I know we've talked about a lot of topics, Drew, but I think it's really important for people to think about how they want to structure their lives, right? What's going to be most satisfying, how you can put all the pieces together to fit so that you have satisfaction with your work, with your family, you're pouring into them. You can find time to do these other things that you do.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'd say, one, is just that recognizing, one, how important sales is. And then two, I really believe you can organize your life in the way to live the life you want, whether that's through sales or your job, or being able to just structure the life in a way so you, and I think this is not so sales related.
Okay.
And I think too often we try to work towards the life we want to have instead of like living from it right now, if that makes sense. So I think it's like, what if I asked myself, okay, instead of, hey, I'm going to be this person 5 years from now, what if we just said, I'm going to be that person today and start building our life from where we're at right now, instead of saying, hey, I'll have the happiness when I get there. Because the other thing I have learned, whether in sales, whether in business, whether in real estate, too many times I've said, I'll be happy when this happens. And I've learned that if you can't find happiness and joy right now, you won't be happy when you hit the goal or achieve the next thing. And that's easier said than done, like how to learn that and do that. And something I feel like I'm still working on every day. Yeah. And I think when you focus on what's present in your life, it's easier to find that happiness in whatever you're doing. And so our group, for example, for the Everyday Leader, our podcast in the community, it's called The Climb. And we call it that because we like to focus on the climb, the journey, not just the getting to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
So that's really important to me too. Helping people.
Fantastic. We will have all the links in the show notes, of course. But Drew, do you have a favorite quote, family motto, mantra, verse, poem, words that continue to inspire you to live this life of servant leadership, helping people develop themselves as whole people, as leaders, and as sales experts?
What I want to keep saying to people over and over again is that sales is life. The other thing that is really big for me right now is just you find joy in your life, not by the circumstances of your life, but what you focus on. And I'm butchering the quote. It's by Russell and Nelson. He's a leader of our church. And I've just found so much truth in that. Like what I focus on is what I tend to find. And so I think you can have what you want, whether that's through sales or through business or in life. And so just making that shift in my life to focused on just being present and what's most important has just made all the difference when it comes to my personal happiness.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been so lovely to see you again. And of course, I will let everybody know when the episode of your podcast that I was on comes out. But I think these are the conversations that are important for us to have in the world of business. It's not just about the tips and the tricks and the tactics. Those are important as well. But the mindset, thinking about how you want to be a whole person and how you can be better at sales through clear communication, leadership, and just, creating that hub. So thank you, Drew. Really appreciate you.
Yes, today this was really fun.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey, and some inspiration for you. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.